The following program is intended for mature audiences.
A democratic republic of sports. The Sportsocracy with ESPN Asheville hosts Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene.
Welcome into the Ingles Studios. This is the Sportsocracy's 2022 Post-Senior Bowl 7-round mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City came up just short of a return trip to the Super Bowl this year, losing to Joe Burrow. And I'm going to be honest with you, this draft class is one of my favorites of all 32 teams that I have done. Be sure to click the notifications button so you'll know every time we put out a video, including 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every weekday with our live ESPN Radio Asheville show. So let's get into it with the Kansas City Chiefs with their first-round pick. Number 30 overall, they take one of my favorite players in this draft, Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky. This kid started as a running back, and it's very obvious. Went to Nebraska. Things didn't work out exactly the way he wanted them to. Then he went to Kentucky and just blew up. I could see this being the next Deebo Samuel. Just a kid that comes in the NFL. He's raw as hell, not a great route runner, all the nonsense that you hear people say about receivers. And he's just so dynamic. He's one of the most athletic players in this draft. Really shifty, really fast, probably going to run in the 4.3s. Only spent 1 year as a receiver, so doesn't have the full route tree. But I'm telling you right now, you put this kid on the field with Tyreek Hill, and good things are going to happen. He's not very big, 5'11", $185, slight frame, short arms. I don't care. Just get the ball in his hands. He can play out of the backfield. That Deebo Samuel role is going to grow with teams in the NFL, and I could easily see Wan'Dale Robinson doing that. Started, as I said, as a running back. Not the greatest deep ball threat you've ever seen. People said the same thing about Deebo Samuel. In Kansas City, he would be an elite, probably my favorite pick in the first round. Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver out of Kentucky. With their second-round pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select Sam Williams, number 62 overall. He is an edge from Ole Miss. I like this kid a lot. He's super raw, but he's an elite-level pass rusher right now. Fits in as I think he would be a situational pass rusher to start. In a 3-4, he would stand up. Just straight up, that's exactly how this would work. In a 4-3, I think you can rotate some pieces, move Frank Clark to the inside, put him on the outside. The old NASCAR package that the New York Giants had, that would work perfectly with this kid. He doesn't do anything else tremendously well right now. Would be borderline a liability against the run right now. Not the best tackler you've ever seen. He is very tall. He's going to run a number that's dumb. I could see him running in the 4.4s, even as big as he is. The only problem is that that's straight line speed. You don't always see that on the tape. He doesn't have that burst that you're really looking for at all times. Some inconsistent effort, but the good is unbelievable. And to catch a kid like this at the end of the second round that could come in and have a no-doubt role immediately would be an absolute home run for the Kansas City Chiefs. With their next selection, number 94 in the third round, Brandon Smith, linebacker, Penn State. This is another kid that I am really fond of. The only thing you have to understand, he is a passing down linebacker exclusively. That is all he's going to be able to do in the beginning because he would be a complete liability against the run. 6'3", 240, but he is going to run a legitimate 4.40. Unbelievable athlete. Has actually been hand-timed at 4.38. I mean, he's Micah Parsons level athletic. The only problem is that he is not as dynamic of a pass rusher by any stretch. Like I said, he would be a liability against the run. So you're going to have to build him into his role in the NFL. Now, that being said, he pairs very nicely next to Nick Bolton. I think he provides them something that you saw in the game with Buffalo, in the game with Cincinnati. He is the best cover linebacker in this draft, and it's not really all that close. I love this kid, sky-high, unbelievable potential. And above all else, great kid. Every person I have ever talked to that has ever been in the same room with this kid says he is as high level of a character, just wonderful human being as you will ever meet. I think he's a tremendous value here at the end of the third round. A lot of people say, oh, he'll go before that. I'm not so sure of that because he can't play in a 3-4 at all. He'll only be a 4-3 Mike outside linebacker. That's what he's going to be. He'll be very good against tight ends. He'll be very good on passing downs, but he provides you absolutely nothing in the run game. And I think if he ever does, it's going to take some time. If you agree with these picks, if you don't agree with these picks, if there's a player you would like to know how he fits with the Kansas City Chiefs, put those in the comments. I answer them every single day, and it is me that answers them. I am Jeremy Greene of ESPN Radio, and I am our resident draft nerd here at the Sportsocracy. I do the next set of videos that come out will be my top 500 big board. On our channel right now, you can find my top 13s at every position in the NFL draft. And I will do 2 more full 7-round mock drafts. I do this one post-Senior Bowl, one after the Combine free agency, after everything kind of settles down at the end of March, and then I do one that goes out the 2 days directly before the 2022 NFL Draft. Continuing on with picks for the Kansas City Chiefs, at number 102 in the 3rd round, this is a compensatory pick, Wanya Thomas from Georgia Tech. I like this kid a lot. He does not provide much coverage-wise, but I do think he can be a much higher-level version of Daniel Sorensen. I think he will be good. He's very athletic, very raw, would provide special teams ability immediately, probably is going to have to be groomed into any other bigger role. Not very good in coverage. He's an in-the-box safety. I think he can be a thumper in the NFL. This helps against the run. He's a situational player to begin with. As time goes on, I think his role will grow. Been sometimes that his eyes get trapped in the backfield, and that can lead to some blown coverages, some missed assignments, some missed tackles. But there's so much raw to like here. Zone specific. I don't think he's ever going to be a good man-to-man cover guy. Can cover tight ends, and he's big enough to cover tight ends that he's a great weapon. Into the 3rd round, Wanya Thomas, safety out of Georgia Tech. With their 4th round selection, number 133 overall, Josh Jobe, cornerback, Alabama. I'm just going to say this about Alabama defensive players. They virtually never get better in the NFL. Nick Saban gets everything they have out of them. And Josh Jobe, to me, is a rotational 3rd corner in the NFL. Can he spot start? Absolutely. If he was pressed into action, I think he could absolutely do that if somebody got hurt. I don't want the expectation of him starting. That's why he goes here. I've seen him go as high as the middle of the 2nd round, and to me, that's insane. I like Jalen Armour-Davis, his secondary mate at Alabama, better than him. There is more raw talent there to me. I just feel like Josh Jobe is exactly what I have already seen him to be. He's a decent enough tackler. He can do damn near anything you want. He is a plus run defender for a corner, which is pretty rare in this draft. Certainly has a role in the NFL. I just don't want it to be a down-in, down-out starter. Comes into Kansas City. He's a piece that they can use, and he's ready to play right now. He's as good as he's going to get, and that's something that I think would be appealing to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're only picking the 6th round, no picks in the 5th. We go to 189, Jerrian Ely, running back out of Ole Miss. This kid can be Darren Sproles level good with an ability to actually run the ball. He's really small. 5'9", $185. This is a passing down kind of back. Not a good blocker. But he is dynamic out of the backfield. You get the ball in this kid's hand and good things happen. If he was taller, he would absolutely go drastically higher than this. He can only be a passing down back in the NFL. But you put him with Pat Mahomes, Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyreek Hill. Now you have, without a doubt, the fastest offense possibly in NFL history. And he can assist with, whether it's Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Tried to tell you that was a disaster when you did it, but nobody wanted to listen to me, and here we are. I do think he can help do things in the passing game that very few running backs in this draft can do. Wasn't used much as a receiver at Ole Miss. But when he did it, it was very, very good. Just didn't fit the scheme that Lane Kiffin implemented at Ole Miss. His size is going to be the biggest problem. But we've seen with many smaller running backs in the NFL that they can carve out a role, especially if they're this fast. He, I believe, will run a sub-4 440 and would be a wonderful value pick for the Kansas City Chiefs here in the 6th round. Before we get into the 3 7th-rounders, be sure to click the like and subscribe on this video, the notifications button, so you'll know every time we go live, every time we put out Kansas City Chiefs material here in the Sportsocracy. We will be doing team needs next for every team in the NFL, and we will be putting out weekly videos on every team in the NFL leading all the way up to the April 28th NFL Draft in Las Vegas. 3 picks in the 7th round. First one for Kansas City, number 230, Tyrese Robinson from Oklahoma. They hit huge with 2 linemen last year in the draft with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. Now you got to start rounding out the depth pieces, and Tyrese Robinson is the definition of a depth piece. Better pass blocker right now than he is run blocker. Would be a good extra guard to carry on game day because he can do practically everything on the interior of the line. Not as dominating of a bully as you would expect him to be at his size, but very raw. And I've said this with a few other linemen that we've talked about. Big 12 linemen are really hard to evaluate because the defenses are so damn small. He got taken advantage of at times by faster edge rushers, faster defensive players in the Big 12. Here's the thing. Some of those defensive players are 220 pounds. You're not going to see guys consistently in the NFL doing that. I think there's enough raw here. Played a ton of snaps, almost 2,500 snaps in college. A lot of experience, a guy that if he was thrust into not necessarily a starting role, but a spot start role would be absolutely fine, and a player that you can develop over time. Could ultimately be a replacement to Joe Thuney down the line, but you don't really want him to have a down-in, down-out role for the first couple years. Needs to round into his body, get a little stronger, but would be a quality 7th-round pick. With their second of 3 7th-rounders, Zach Van Valkenberg, who has one of the best names in this draft. This is a kid from Iowa, and he very much fits the Iowa narrative. Played defensive end at Iowa. I think in the NFL he's going to have to play defensive tackle and will be a part of a rotation. He's very small, 6'4", 265, and played on the interior at times at Iowa. I think I project him as a defensive tackle, very good against the run, very solid run defender, but he's going to have to add good bulk to the frame. High motor guy, high intensity guy, somebody that helps the locker room. I don't think he's ever going to be a very good pass rusher. He's just going to be a rotational defensive lineman that will be plus against the run, net neutral probably against the pass. Never going to be a 3-down guy, but can certainly have a role in a 4-man front like Kansas City's. With their final 7th-round pick, number 248 overall, Wanya Morris, they go back to the Oklahoma offensive lineman pool and draft Wanya Morris, the tackle out of Oklahoma. Wait a minute. Wanya Morris went to Tennessee. Indeed. Wanya Morris. I screwed up the graphic. Apologies. 6'5", 315 pounds, raw as they possibly come. There are not many more raw offensive linemen in this draft than Wanya Morris. I was right. He went to Oklahoma. Sorry, apologies. My notes, I had written down Tennessee, and I don't know if I was drunk when I wrote that. Anyway, Wanya Morris, the tape is really inconsistent. I think his not his ceiling, but the early ceiling with Wanya Morris is as a swing tackle. Solely because he's not a plus pass blocker, he's not a plus run blocker. But the high-level tape is really, really good. It tends to have bad pad level. The upside is what is intoxicating with him. That's the reason he falls to the back end of the 7th round. Feet were inconsistent. Technique is inconsistent, but he's very, very athletic. To be as big as he is, I could see him running a sub 540 at 6'5", 315 pounds. The definition of a project. But he's got a nasty streak. If you ever find a way to just bring that out of him, could be a high-level, late-round selection that's on a roster for a long time. I am Jeremy Greene of ESPN Radio Asheville and the Sportsocracy.com. You can follow me on Twitter at TheFlostradamus. I post things all the time, different takes, things I notice on tape, but at TheFlostradamus on Twitter. And be sure to click the like, subscribe, notifications button, all those things so you'll know every time we go live. As always, we're brought to you by Ingles Supermarkets, low prices, love the savings.